The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus and his disciples came to the other side of the sea, to the territory of the Gerasenes. When he got out of the boat, at once a man from the tombs who had an unclean spirit met him. The man had been dwelling among the tombs, and no one could restrain him any longer, even with a chain. In fact, he had frequently been bound with shackles and chains, but the chains had been pulled apart by him and the shackles smashed, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the hillsides, he was always crying out and bruising himself with stones. Catching sight of Jesus from a distance, he ran up and prostrated himself before him, crying out in a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." He had been saying to him, "Unclean spirit, come out of the man." He asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "Legion is my name. There are many of us." And he pleaded earnestly with him not to drive them away from that territory. Now a large herd of swine was feeding there on the hillside, and they pleaded with him, "Send us into the swine, let us enter them." And he let them, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the swine. The herd of about 2,000 rushed down a steep bank into the sea, where they were drowned. The swineherds ran away and reported the incident in the town and throughout the countryside, and people came out to see what had happened. As they approached Jesus, they caught sight of the man who had been possessed by Legion, sitting there clothed and in his right mind, and they were seized with fear. Those who witnessed the incident explained to them what had happened to the possessed man and to the swine. Then they began to beg him to leave their district. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed pleaded to remain with him. But Jesus would not permit him and told him instead, "Go home to your family and announce to them all that the Lord in his pity has done for you." Then the man went off and began to proclaim in the Decapolis what Jesus had done for him, and all were amazed. The Gospel of the Lord. Yeah, this is a fantastic, awe-inspiring account of this exorcism that Jesus works for this particular man. It has many political overtones in it. I'm not sure that we're trained to kind of catch them at first sight, but even the sense of legion. Right, the possession of the man by legion is itself more than likely a reference to the Romans who had invaded that territory and controlled that territory, and we're seen actually as by Jesus' time we're seen as something like Satan incarnate. At least by the Jewish people who were close to that particular territory, but of course that's not Jewish territory. We know that because there is a whole massive, herd of swine there, and Jewish people would not go near that. So yeah, we have political overtones because we have the oppression of the Roman regime, coloring more than coloring the story, because there's some sense also of the fact that oppression just doesn't simply work from the outside. It takes over people from the inside, and this is that's not all there is, and I'll say why that's not all there is, but this is a big part of what we're seeing here. And then the interaction between Jesus, the man, the swineherds, and the town. These are all very significant, say politically, but they're also very significant as it relates to worship and the building up of and tearing down of human societies and cultures. Because we have this, right? The man possessed, overwhelmed with the oppression, the oppressive force of Rome, and yet kind of left out by himself, and not so as to not be too great an influence, of course, on the town. And what destruction he would cause if he was, well, he is left to run rampant because they can't restrain him, but to keep on the outside of town. But what a force he would be on the inside of the operation. And then the swineherds, right? Why are they going back to the town to say what happened? Well, they've lost all their pigs. They've lost their commerce. They've lost a good good bit of the food supply of the town. These are really big threats to all of them. They're really big threats to the people of the town, and they come out to Jesus for a good reason, to tell him, please leave. It's like, you upset everything. Do you know, like, we've got this guy isolated outside of town. That's it, right? It's done. It's done. We don't have to worry about him, even though, we can't restrain him. But he's out there. Leave him out there, please. And we have our commerce work. We've got our markets working, whatever, and trade and sustenance and the rest. It's working quite well for us. Thank you. Like we get it, right? There are victims here. There are people who are suffering and the rest. But yeah, better one than many. And just leave us alone. Really, we'll do it quite well without you. Yeah, and of course Jesus has. He's going to leave, but he doesn't have any real patience for that mentality, right? Who's the victim here? Who's the marginalized, right? The guy on the very margins. That's the guy that Jesus is going to go heal. Now, here's the rave. I mean, look. I don't know. We don't use these words anymore, right? But this is a raving lunatic on the side of the hill. He's living in the cemetery. He's unclean, right? He's in the pagan. He's in non-Jewish territory. He's unclean. He's around the pigs. He's in the cemetery. This is like the most disgusting person in the world for a Jewish person to encounter. He will make Jesus and his disciples unclean in every imaginable way. And that's the guy that Jesus goes to. So good for us, right? Because we're that guy. Okay, anyway, so let me, you're a bunch of raving lunatics. Okay, so get over it. No, it's good because Jesus has come to you. Do you know? Jesus has come to you. He's seen past it all, and he's come to you with healing. And he doesn't care what it messes up. Yeah, because he loves you. That's what matters. So he's gonna just push right into it. He doesn't care. He's gonna prioritize you, and then let things kind of grow as they will from there, right? From that place of healing, instead of saying like, let me get in and kind of reorganize everything. And I get that there's this political piece together harmony or whatever. Like you guys have figured it out or whatever. But that guy's trapped. That guy's enslaved, he's burdened, he's broken, whatever. I'm going to go heal him. I don't care what effect that has. In fact, I do care what effect that has, because his healing is going to bring a better sense of healing and restoration to everybody else. Yeah, you're going to have some problems. Deal with it. Because this is about, right, setting captives free. This is about the healing and restorative mission of God. So this is what he's going to do. Yeah? And this is us. If God messes things up by healing people, for us, good for him, and good for that healed person, and good for us. If we have to deal with stuff as a result of God's healing people, fine, we'll take it. Even though it might be painful and frustrating to any number of different other agendas that work kind of counter to the kingdom of God. Anyway, we've got this going on, but look, I want to say, Jesus didn't simply come in to do this kind of reconfiguration of political powers, right? Like he's just, let me push Rome back into the sea and everything's fine. There are other things going on there, right? Jesus is dealing with brokenness, disorder, and the like on the spiritual level. And he has to get in there, or every political system fails. Even the political systems of the church fail, where her people fall into brokenness and woundedness and disorder that they don't want to face, and that they won't allow Jesus to face. We're simply a community of forgiven sinners, right? When we forget about the work that forgiveness wants to do in us, what God's mercy wants to do in us and through us, we're just like every other society. We're the ones who are going to find ourselves thrown back into the sea. That's who we are at the core, who God has made us to be, people who have received his mercy. As soon as we forget about mercy, we have nothing. But how does that mercy come to us? It comes to us through Jesus. Yeah, and so I think we see in the very in the intentional retelling of this story by St. Mark, we see what this man might be secluded on the hill by himself at this part of the gospel. By the end of the gospel, Jesus is on the hill by himself. This guy might be uttering words here that no one finds intelligible and the like. Jesus, when he's on his cross, crying out in words that nobody really understands. Right? It's the man here is naked and bound with chains. Jesus there, this is a bad portrayal, but I understand why we do it. But he's naked on the cross, and he's bound by the nails that hold him there. So he's going to suffer it for us, right? So this man's freedom and Jesus making him free leads directly to the cross, and he's willing to suffer that as well, in order to liberate us, in order to free us, to heal us, and to give us the strength that we need to trust and follow him in all things today, because he's our liberation. Jesus is our liberation. He's our salvation. He's the way, the truth, and the life. And today he gives us what we need to follow him in faith.